Hi, everybody. It's Mr. Gray here. Thank you again for another fantastic week. I have so much info for you this week. First of all, there is no school next Tuesday, November 11th. It is Veterans Day that day. The Tuesday after that, we'll have the book fair. So students can bring in money, or you'll get an email and you can kind of add money to an e-wallet online. And they're able to buy books. That'll be a really fun day. And then the next week after that, there is no school because of the Thanksgiving break holiday. And so those are the things coming up. And then we'll obviously come back to school in the first week of December. The second thing I want to tell you is that throughout the long history of schools, anytime there is a break coming up, Thanksgiving break, winter break, spring break, during all of those times, like kind of poor or negative behavior kind of ticks up at that time. And there's not an exact reason, except that everyone can kind of feel like it's time for a break. And I'm starting to notice that a little bit. There's just certainly some behaviors that don't quite match the expectations. Not that there's anything really bad going on, but there's stuff that is probably not the stuff that you want your kids to be doing at school. So it's a great reminder to have that conversation with your kids and ask them about what's going on at home or what's going on at school, and are they following through with what your kind of personal expectations for them at school. It's just a great check-in and a reminder at this time. Okay, next week, here's what we're doing. We're gonna shift our focus away from fiction books and theme and go into some non-fiction text. We'll start off the week looking at some informational passages related to Veterans Day, which is on Tuesday. And then the kids will have the mid-year star reading assessment. And we'll really be practicing how to read facts, key ideas, and looking at text structure. We'll continue reading Pax. Hopefully that will get finished before Thanksgiving break, and I can read out loud one more book before winter break. In writing, my first announcement is the kids finished publishing their first narrative. Typically we publish two like at this time, and I came in a little late, and so we're a little behind, so we're not going to do that this time, although there might be another time this year where we get to narrative and they get to do it again. The kids all had a homework assignment, which was to take their narrative home and to read it out loud to you, the parents. Like that was the homework assignment given, and I'm kind of giving you that information here, but also like hopefully they're coming to you with that information and you don't have to come to them. Eventually you're gonna have to, but hopefully they come to you and say, I'm ready to read out my narrative. The kids also got comments from other students in class that were readers, so hopefully you can read that as well. Okay, next week we're gonna turn our attention to opinion essays. The kids are gonna read some curated articles and research about chocolate milk in schools. And they're going to be taking notes from multiple perspectives and kind of crafting this idea about whether or not they think that chocolate milk should be served in schools as opposed to just regular milk. In math, the kids are going to take their mid-year STAR math assessments. We're taking STAR reading and STAR math next week. And then we're going to continue to apply fractions to real world problems with adding and subtraction. We might get into some review of multiplying. The other thing I wanted to talk about in math was we went over this a couple of things today where the kids had to estimate. And what I have found over time is that APA students in particular, fifth grade students generally, absolutely, but APA students in particular get very uncomfortable with math the farther away we get from very formulaic math. If I give kids a problem and says find the area of a piece of paper that is 8 1/2 inches by 11 inches, they all go, I know exactly what to do. I follow the formula. I get the correct answer. Everything is perfect. Okay, and that tends to be a place of big time comfort, specifically for APA students more than other students. And then when I get to a little bit more of a messy problem, and we had one today, and we had the same conversation that I'm having with you now in our class today, where the kids had to estimate and there wasn't one correct answer. There's a huge range of correct answers based on how you justified it. And even the idea of estimating was really hard because some kids still wanted to count like every single piece rather than making kind of a more general estimate. And so the reason I'm telling you this is because that will be an ongoing conversation, is to try to find like I will try to put problems in front of them that make them uncomfortable in this way, because that is another tool in our tool belt. It is completely necessary and wonderful to have these tools about following formulas and getting to the correct answer. But as we know, there are many problems out in the world that are not one perfect correct answer. We know as adults we're constantly weighing things, buying a car versus leasing a car. That doesn't exactly have one correct answer. It depends on lots of different factors and can change at different times. Renting a house versus buying a house, how to budget and make decisions that way. So sometimes we're doing these things that are about estimating, but they're about this larger thing. So that to you is a great thing. Bring your kids in on that conversation when we have a messy financial issue that doesn't have a perfect correct answer, where someone can say, we're going to do it this way, but someone else could say, we're going to do it this way. And both of them could be right. That's a really hard thing for all fifth graders, and in particular APA students, to kind of wrap their head around. But that's another great tool on their tool belt that we'll be working on this year. In social studies, we're moving on to our next unit, which is all about settling the new world. Christopher Columbus has discovered America. There's explorers going all around the world, and now European settlers are starting to settle. And there is a lot of conflict with Native Americans who are there, as well as struggles for the settlers. And then there's lots of like cooperation between them, as well as conflict. And that's what we're going to talk about in this next section. In science, the students are going to kind of act as scientists and test out different materials to determine which one would be best for an explorer's backpack. You may have heard something like that before. It's a continuation of what we did before. The kids are doing some vocabulary work with something called a story relay. And so we're kind of building up some new vocabulary words and practicing with them. We'll meet with our second grade buddies next week. And on Friday, we have a new thing. We're meeting with Mrs. Kovac's fifth grade class, and we're just going to do some like fifth grade to fifth grade, like fun time, like board games or different activities. They'll hopefully over time, we'll kind of learn some new games and do some other things that should be fun. But for the next few weeks, at least, we're just going to meet with them. They'll be able to interact with some other fifth graders. So that should be really fun. So that's so much information for you. Thank you for hanging in there to the end of the video. If you did, as always, if you have any questions or comments, let me know. No school next Tuesday, the 11th. Book fair the Tuesday after the 18th. Then the week after that, the 24th to the 28th, is no school at all for Thanksgiving break. Okay? Have a fantastic weekend. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.